Buenos dias, everybody. Hi, hello. How are you? How is it going? How have you been? Happy Monday. We're starting this week swinging. This is probably, I'm not going to do a live next week because I will be at Vid Summit. If you guys don't know, I am a part of the Vid Summit team. I do check-in and volunteer management and different things like that. I've been with them for a little while, so I will be in Dallas. So if you are coming to Vid Summit, please say hello, say hi. Let's get coffee, hang out. But that's not why we're here today. We are here because I have been, if you guys know, slowly shifting into Slack fully. And I was very adamantly against Slack, I should say, for a very long time. And it took really crafting my own workspace and understanding what I needed Slack to do for me before I fully embraced it. So I have a video on my channel titled like I was wrong about this tool that I posted earlier this summer. Go check that out. I talk a lot about how I've built Slack, my emoji system, and really how we get it working. But I've as I've started to shift into Slack further and further, what I have come to find is a frustration that's not Slack specific, but that is the fact that I don't have one centralized tool. And I've looked at tools across the board for kind of centralizing all of your communication, your tasks, your email, whatever. None of them hit the mark. And to be totally honest, y'all know I'm a cheapskate. And so I don't want to spend $30 on a tool when I could ideally build it myself. And so that's what we're going to talk about today are the automations that I have built to transform Slack into a centralized work hub. And what I mean by that is I have one, and actually, let me close out a few things and then I will show you. Let me just screen share. So I have one private channel in Slack that why is this doing this? That I use myself, that's private, that you don't have to, or rather, that other people don't have access to, I should say. And here we go. So this is what it looks like. So this is kind of this is a cleaned up version now that I have kind of this automation thing running. So as you can see, it's a private channel. It's called Daily Standup. And what my goal with that is to have one centralized place for email notifications, for action notifications. And then I have I guess the cat's out of the bag a little bit, but I have a AI assistant named Lizzie, and she sends emails for me, accounting information. She also acts as our account executive and handles onboarding for clients. And so you will see as we go through today, you'll see her name kind of across the board that it then says app because she's actually a bot that I've built. And so we're going to go through the three of those. We're going to talk about that. But of course, any questions that you guys have, whether it's how do I build this? How do I transform this for my own workspace? I don't use Slack, but what are other ways that I can utilize this? Please drop them in the chat below. Okay, so like I mentioned, we have a daily channel in Slack called Daily Standup. This is purely for me. No one else has access to this from my team. This is literally to keep my mind at ease. And what happens is every morning at I think I have it triggered for 7 a.m. Lizzie pops in a daily stand up message. Now, I do have this changed by day. So every Monday, I do payroll for my contractors. Every Friday, I do the practice of more, better, new, which I've talked about. And so this daily stand up message changes every day. So keep that in mind. So it literally just says, hey, Sarah, here's your daily stand up. So based on the day, it then has the bullets of as reminders for what I need to do for the day. So today, prioritize outstanding items from above yesterday, which we'll talk about in a minute, update projects in the clients channel, and review any outstanding items. I kind of have a running to-do list called Sara to-dos that are it's just a brain dump. And how I organize that channel is I just go and go and go. And then I prioritize an hour to 2 hours every week to say, okay, like I can I don't know, change this thing or build this lead magnet or whatever, right? So I look at those and I say, what have I not reviewed to take action on? What can I delete, etc. And then you'll notice that Stripe has already pushed something here this morning, that Gmail has pushed 2 emails, and then Google Calendar. I have the Google Calendar app tag or automatically built into Slack. And so every morning at 7 a.m., or rather 9 a.m., sorry, at 9 a.m., it pushes the daily agenda. So ideally, if all works out how my daily schedule works, is that technically Lizzie would post, it would go Google Calendar immediately, and then start dumping in the day's actions. So, if you want to know how to set up the Google Calendar, first you just have to connect it and log in. But then, if you go to Google Calendar, you'll see the app here. And if you go to settings and then go to channel notifications, and then you can toggle on your daily schedule or not, or your weekly schedule, and then what channel you want to push it to. So instead of having the app always sending me notifications, I just have it pushed to one channel. So I don't have multiple notifications across the board. And then you can obviously decide, like, do you want event reminders, all day reminders, all of those little things, which I don't, because I have it in Arc where it pushes that little notification for the calendar. So I don't need those in Slack as well. And that was something on LinkedIn who asked me. I don't remember who asked me. I think it was Virginia. Asked me, like, well, why aren't you doing to-dos in Notion? And why I built this daily stand-up, and we'll get into the task side of it here in a second. But most of my to-dos do not warrant a full dedicated card in Notion. And the more I talk to people, the more it seems that this is pretty much a consensus, unless you're working on large projects with several subtasks, but like day to day, right? Like, for instance, I'm trying to think, like Friday, I needed to record an overview video for a project that I did. I needed to um or organize my email. I needed to send some invites out for a co-working club here in Austin that I run. Like random things, right? I don't need to sit and create all these cards and add all these statuses and do all of these things. Just jot them down and go. And so that's actually where our first automation, well, actually, one of our automations we'll get to in a second is the next level, or rather V2 of my emoji reactions. So we're going to talk about those today as well. So you can see all of these. So popping into, let me just check. No chat. Okay. So popping into Zapier. So the first one that we can talk about is Stripe payment. Now, I run all of my invoicing through Stripe as one-off checkout links. And I do that because various clients, choose various payment plans. I have hourly consulting that people are paying one-off for. And so for me, what I do is anytime there's a new payment, it automatically gets added to my finance database in Notion. And it also like calculates what my payout is, and it tags the invoice status, etc. Because if it's a payment plan, um, it then marks it as like payment made, but like the invoice isn't complete, right? But this one-off hourly consulting, it was complete. And then it sends a channel message, and that is specific because, as you guys know, in Zapier currently, you cannot utilize relations in Notion. And so I still have to go into my finance tracker and then actually link the client, which is really annoying. And sometimes, honestly, I just forget to do it, right? You see those Stripe emails come through, the notifications that you got a payment. You're like, oh my God, money, woohoo. Like I'm paid, like my dog won't be homeless. And so through that, you know, I kind of sometimes forget, oh, I need to update this and quote unquote like balance my books. Um, and so this is a quick little reminder to tell me. And so that's the first one. That's the first kind of add on. The pushing to Notion already happened, but the Slack push was there. The next thing is going to be emails. So Gmail to Slack. Now, this one specifically, how my daily schedule works. You guys should have some context. Every single morning, I walk about 3 miles. I walk for like a hour every morning. And that's when I'm going through all of my emails on my phone for like 6 inboxes. Okay. I have like 3 personal emails. I've got the work emails. And so for me, I just like to go through all my notifications on my walk. But what, and like delete the non-important emails, right? Like the emails I get from cal.com that someone booked a call with me. Like I don't need to keep those in my inbox, right? So I go through all of those, but what happens is once I get home and I start my day and I have my coffee or my juice and I'm like getting into projects, I don't look at my inbox again. And so I needed a way to be able to push um actions into Slack so I wouldn't forget them. So this now I have a label in my email that is called to Slack. And when I label an email to Slack, it is what you see here, which is email action required. And it shows who it's from and the subject line of the email. And so, you can see here now, this is something that I had to learn, which is how do you tag somebody like a member of your Slack channel and or show like a hyperlink. And so what you actually have to do, if you can see here, this is my username, whatever, on Slack. And so you use the what are those called? The arrows, the brackets, I don't know, the arrows, and then the at symbol, and then you find the member link. So if I click on me and go to the 3 dots and click copy member ID, that's how I get that code. And then asterisks 1 on each side are bolding. And then you just pull the data from the trigger. Now, for the hyperlink, though, you don't need the brackets, but you do need those arrows again. And then no space, the vertical line thingy. I don't know what any of these shortcuts. I thought I sound so stupid. I'm like, the long line on the keyboard, and then no space, and then whatever text you want the hyperlink to say. So that is how we create that. Now, let's talk about the bot icons for a second, because I kind of skipped that over on the first one. So you'll see here that we are sending this as a bot and we're sending it as Gmail. Okay. So you can 100% dictate the bots that go into Slack, and you can also set the icon. Now, I tried rigging this a little bit. I tried hyperlinking logos from different websites. That didn't work. So what I did is I went to, um, Google Images and I just typed in Gmail logo. Okay. Go to your images, download it out. That one's a bad version, whatever, right? You download that. And then I have Squarespace for my website. So what I did is I then uploaded the logo here into the custom CSS, copied the link, copied the link, and then pasted that as a bot icon. And so now anytime that Gmail, see, I just got a new email. Anytime that Gmail goes through, it has the Gmail logo and it says it's from Gmail. Whereas Stripe, same thing. I did the exact same thing with Stripe. And then Lizzie actually is the exact same thing. So Lizzie is my AI bot. If you missed the beginning of this live stream, she is not a real person. So if you've gotten an email from Lizzie, cat's out of the bag. She's not real. But I found like a random photo that I thought was cute on Unsplash. And I was like, oh, she fits the vibe. Like, it's good. I also had ChatGPT name her. So, but if you hover over Lizzie's name, you can actually see that it's a Zapier app that came through. So that is how you set the bot. And then there's other things that you can dictate when you're sending these channel messages, such as including a link to the Zap. I don't know why you would need that. I don't auto expand links. And then you do want to make sure that link usernames and channel names is set to yes, or all of the linking that you put in the message won't work. So that's the only thing. And then if you were to choose to send a message as an initial message and then put it as a thread, you can't really see it because of this like little icon at the bottom, but link usernames, or sorry, send channel message, you want to make sure you set that to yes, because I could always set, like, let's say I wanted to push the body of the email, I could do my first action as send channel message, and that's this like email action required. And then I could do a next action in Zapier in the workflow and post the body, but I can toggle that to say that I want it to be in that thread instead of just to the channel. And there's all these lines. So that is the first thing. And then, okay, so the next thing, we already talked about the daily stand-up in Slack, but it's pretty straightforward. You just use the schedule by Zapier and send it every day, Monday through Friday. And then let's talk about emails. So this one, oh, sorry, we already talked about that one. The labels, my bad. So in here, I think it's this one, Slack to Google Calendar. Yes. Okay. So you're probably wondering, like, Sara, how do you keep this clean? What are you doing with this? What is the deal? So my plan every single day is to not have anything in this channel by the end of the day, unless something is outstanding and I just didn't get to it. Like, for instance, the updating finance. I may decide, oh, I'm just going to update those on Fridays, right? I could leave that, but like, I don't need all of these Gmail notifications, right? So what I've built is a path and formatter uh, workflow in Slack. So the first thing is when a new reaction is added specifically to this channel, then we are going to take action. So instead of the trigger being a very specific reaction, this allows me to kind of do next level um, emoji reactions and continue building on it instead of building a separate zap for every single action, if that makes sense. So the first thing is that we want to splice the data. So we're utilizing the utilities feature in Zapier to pull out data here, and that'll make sense in a second when I show you the first path. And then we're going to split into paths here. And the first one is going to be adding a task to my calendar. Now, and I probably should have renamed this, but that's all good. So, the first one, like I said, is adding a task to my calendar. Now, you guys know if you watched my crazy calendar video that I plug every single thing that I do into my calendar. But I also add like a cute little emoji to the front of it. When it's done, I use a check mark, green check mark. And so what I wanted to do is when I add in the Google Calendar emoji, which is also custom, I'll show you how to do that in a second, then add it to the calendar. So if I go to my calendar, you can see here that it says alert possible error on your SPF lost leads in Notion, and it has the check mark. So what this does is it automatically creates the event and it puts it as now. So instead of when it pushed that notification to Zapier, so for instance, if the item was pushed, yesterday and I didn't get it to till today, we don't want the start date to be when it was added to Slack. And so you want to make sure that your start date is now, or you could even say like 1 hour ago or whatever. I think now is fine because if I'm checking it off, that means I just spent time doing it. And then what is the end time? So for all of these small actions, pretty much everything on my calendar is 30 minutes or 15 or 30. 30 seems healthy. And so I can always change it if it took me less time or more time and drag it on my calendar. And so it will automatically create a calendar event starting now for 30 minutes. And then from there, we don't want it as an all day. We want to show it on the calendar, but you can also like hide it as busy. You can change all of those. So if we look at this, this was added here and now it's done. And I also automatically add everything to my admin calendar. And let's say something like, actually, this is actually technically a client deliverable. So I can easily just go in here and change what calendar it was on. And so my time tracking is actually appropriate. But then let's say that it is just a general thing on there that I don't need to push to my calendar that's in the daily stand up that I just want to delete. For instance, like the emails, right? Like I don't need, unless there's something that, like, for instance, we'll talk about this in a second, but I got an email from a client. This one, the Kim Lawrence detention, that actually is a client deliverable that I need to take care of. So that I would put on my Google Calendar because that was an action. But if I just need to delete, for instance, like that this cal.com is awaiting an intro call, I can put in the mirror ball emoji, and what it'll do is every night, everything that has the mirror ball emoji in this channel automatically gets deleted. So, really, every single morning, I am starting with a brand new slate in my daily stand up. So, let me walk you through how to add a custom emoji. So, for instance, let's do a new one. So, let's say, okay, this is a good example. Like, I just got a lead from Notion since we've been sitting here, and I need to technically review it. That's why it's waiting approval to see if I want to take the project. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the Google Calendar emoji, which I've already uploaded, which means if it is on, did I not pub? Oh, there it goes. It was a little slow. So now you can see Notion project for community club is there. And actually, this one would be considered sales. So I would go in and update it, which updating and like organizing the time doesn't really matter to me. All that takes like 5 minutes. So let me make sure that we publish this before I get ahead of myself. Okay, so adding in a custom emoji. So what you want to do is click on your emojis and then you're going to click add emoji and upload the image. So let's say we want to add here, we'll add in Ollie Ops for Ops Department, which we are getting ready to launch very soon. So let's say we want Ollie to be in here. So then you also name the emoji and we'll click save. So you can see now if I click add emoji and you type him in, he is right there. And that's actually really bad because you can't even see that. But the more you use it, the more it shows up, obviously, in your frequently used. So that is there. And actually, I'll put the mirror ball there because by the time I'm done looking at this, I will approve it. So those are kind of the daily stand-up additions and automations. I think technically we already talked about 3. Yeah, you can see it, just delete it. But the next one is what else are we utilizing Lizzie for? Now, I think for a little while, I thought that having an AI assistant was a little controversial, but I also, in full fairness, don't have enough work to hire a VA. And also, the things that I want done are immediate and not something that I want to wait for somebody to do, uh, 12 hours from when I request it. I also don't want to have to request things. And so that's honestly where Lizzie came to be, is how can we make it seem like we have another individual on our team who does kind of next level things and can quote unquote speak for me while also not adding more to my plate in terms of like not lying, right? Like sending an email, because technically I am, like, I'm pretending to be this AI bot in some instances, but also, how can I kind of make it seem like things are coming off my plate and through automation actually get them off my plate. So one thing, I think I already mentioned it at the beginning, but Lizzie sends our invoice reminders. She sends all of our onboarding emails. So if you are signing on to work with me, I do the sales call, and then Lizzie well, then I basically mentioned like, oh, our account executive Lizzie will send you all of your onboarding, and I basically click a button in Notion to send an SOW, and that triggers sending an email to the client for onboarding, and it comes from an email. It's Project Set Systems, but Lizzie has her own signature in the email. So after that, once a client onboards, we need to do various things to get the project ready to go. And so that's where now that she comes in, and in our client channel. So here we have 2 sample projects here and that you can see. And yeah, whatever. So you'll see that when we have a hourly consulting project, she pushes a notification that says new hourly consulting. with a client name and dates. This is all fake data, by the way. And then if it is a ops project, which are our main bread and butter, she then pushes new sprint and implementation project and the data. But then she takes another step, and this is all done through Zapier. I'll show you in a second. She then takes another step and creates a Miro board for the project. So we have a template in Miro that we use that gets duplicated, and then she posts it here. And then because our clients, we utilize Slack Connect channels with them. Right now, you cannot create a Slack Connect channel through Zapier. And so unfortunately, that is one manual task that has to be done. And so I don't forget, basically, she then sends me a reminder and says, hey, add them to their channel. And then, but it auto creates the channel first and it sets it as a private channel. And actually, that's kind of the next step. Here, I can show you. So she creates this channel. We use the same thread for every single client that's just like, welcome, you get a bi-weekly update, use these reaction emojis, and then our project timeline. And then from there, she then sends that final notification, like add them to the channel because it's already been created. Now, unfortunately, the only other thing that frustrates me in the Zap is that I cannot link the channel because it's set to private, even though I am the member here. It doesn't, like, when you link it in this message, it just says like private, no access, which is really annoying, but it is what it is. It's all good. So I will show you that one. And that's actually a very large step here. So I think it's this one. Nope, not that one. Where is it at? New client. Oh, here we go. So the trigger is Cal. So when the client schedules their strategy call, that's when all of this is triggered. So booking created, that's the trigger. And then we're going to split into paths. So like I mentioned, if it's Notion consulting, they go through one thing. If it's operations, they go through another. And so here, just checking the chat, we want to continue if the call calendar says Notion hourly consulting. We find the Notion database, we update it that they have signed on, and then we want to format the date. So the date in cal.com is the ugliest thing in the entire world. It also does like year, month, date, which in my brain just does not compute. I don't understand why it's not universal to do month, date, year. I digress. And so I utilize the formatter in Zapier to update the date to just be month and day. I don't need the year. I know that it's right now. And then, and we do that for both the start date and the end date of the project. And then we're sending that channel message like I've already shared. So you're basically just pulling the output from those formatters to put that date in there. And then again, we're using Lizzie as the bot icon and the same settings. So we're not including link to the Zap. We're not sharing auto expanding links. Now, the only difference here is Notion consulting is generally like 2 to 5 hours normally for clients for me. So they don't get a Slack channel. We just communicate over email. It's like a 48-hour turnaround 98% of the time, like very low touch point. And what I mean by that is if you saw my content, I don't know, what was that, like a week ago, where I shared about how I built that detention tracker in Notion, that would be like a quick Notion project, right? It's 48-hour turnaround. I'm not talking about full workspace builds. So there's no need for us to have a private channel with the client, which is why it ends with just Lizzie starting a thread for me, because that's where I take notes. I push little to-dos, reminders, things like that. And then, excuse me, on the operations side, though, we then are doing all of those actions that I just went through. So we're sending that channel message to start. We're creating the private message, sending a message to that private message, setting that reminder to say, hey, go add them to their Slack channel. We're creating that Miro board. And then we're sending one final message that says, hey, here's your Miro board. And that is that. So that was a lot. But I also, let me stop screen sharing. I also think that there is so much potential here for continuing to take admin off of my plate. Because like I said, we go through periods of, as a freelancer, as a team, whatever, right? You go through seasons of work. And so, for instance, like this summer was very slow. Like slow, the slowest I have ever seen in the 6 years that I've been doing this. I solely did hourly work this summer, and I'm just now picking up larger projects. And, so there wasn't like a need for a lot of touch points, but now we're onboarding and doing so much that it's like, I don't have time to think about these things. So, what are ways that I can make it easier on me? Because to be totally honest, like I like our little dynamic. I'm not trying to add another person to the team. I'm not trying to stress and create more chaos. And so, my goal over the next, 90 days is to build Lizzie out to being a fully functioning, and this sounds so wild because I don't know if you are a DCOM fan. I obviously love Disney, did the DCP, love DCOMs. Like, I love Disney. Not so much now, but I have a lot of respect for what they did in the late 90s, early 2000s. Anyway, all that to be said, I loved the movie Smart House. And so as I'm building Lizzie out, that's like all I keep thinking about is like she's going to take over. But then I think, that wouldn't be that bad. If I could train an AI to truly be my own assistant and really just like rock and roll things, right? So, but that's my goal for the next 90 days is to just keep adding on and tweaking and really getting the admin side of the business like fully functioning on its own so I can spend more time doing client work. And this is something that is a little kind of like a tangent, but I think fair to share all the same is that, I was really kind of just like looking at my time and looking at, projects and different things. And I've really tried to make it my goal over the last couple of projects to speed up projects. Most of the time, my projects are like 45 days. I'm trying to reduce them by at least a week. And what I realized is like that won't happen unless I go back to prioritizing the project over anything else in my business. So, what I mean by that is like waking up every single day and starting my day on a project rather than not working on a client project until 2, 3 in the afternoon and then feeling like really stressed and pressured that I don't have enough time in the day to work on stuff. So that's like a narrative that I'm also trying to switch, which is why automating a lot of this out really eases my mind. I can go for my admin walk in the morning, look at emails, look at notifications, do what I got to do, and then just come in, sit down, and get to work and not have to sit here. And I feel like most days, like I blink and I'm like, how is it 1 o'clock already? Like I didn't do anything. And in reality, I did like 20 little tiny tasks. So that is yeah, those are the automations that I have built for the business.
Ew.
Oh, hey, did you know that it costs $0 to create efficiency in your business? Go to the description down below and download my free workbook to see how you can start working better.